Best party ever! So glad she didn't come. Who could possibly imagine seeing such words on your own sister's social media post on the very morning of your wedding day? The post was cheerful, captioned with, "From Hawaii with love." Maybe, I thought for a moment, this was all part of some elaborate surprise for the wedding. Any second now, the door to this room might burst open, everyone laughing and shouting, "Surprise!" But the cruel reality was written right there in the timestamp. Just now, they were in Hawaii and I was in New York. When I swiped through the story, a flood of happy videos filled my screen. My parents clinking cocktail glasses, Lindsay's little boy splashing by the pool, and a big family photo framed by a breathtaking Hawaiian sunset. All it did was drive home one simple, unbearable truth. Everyone in my family was in Hawaii, except me. It was my wedding day. It was supposed to be the most radiant day of my life. Yet I was left behind at a stunning penthouse suite overlooking the Manhattan skyline. Morning sunlight streamed through the window, glittering off my pure white wedding gown. Everything was perfect. The setting, the dress, the day itself. And yet, for hours, my heart had been shrouded in a heavy fog. The ceremony was scheduled for 11 a.m. By the time the clock passed 10, I already had a bad feeling. My mother, my father, and my sister Lindsay, who was supposed to be my maid of honor, hadn't shown up. Worse still, I hadn't received a single message or call from any of them. "Mary, are you okay?" It was Aaron, my fiancé, peering at me with concern in his eyes. His voice was so gentle that I forced myself to smile. "Yeah, I'm fine. They're probably just stuck in traffic. You know how bad Manhattan can get." But deep down, I knew something was wrong. The message I'd sent the previous night, "Can't wait for tomorrow," had been read by everyone. Yet no one replied. The calls I made in the morning went unanswered. It was as if they had all agreed to stay silent. Unable to shake the growing dread, I picked up my phone and, almost without thinking, opened my sister Lindsay's social media account. What I saw caught my breath. A brilliant blue sky, an emerald sea, and my entire family beaming on a white sandy beach. My father in an aloha shirt, his arm around my mother. Lindsay held her son, leaning close to them, smiling like she hadn't a care in the world. It felt like being struck in the head. I wanted to believe it was some kind of sick joke, but I could feel the blood drain from my body. As I nearly collapsed onto the sofa, Aaron rushed forward to catch me. All I could do was clutch my phone in trembling hands. How could they do something so cruel? My thoughts were a blur, until a single memory surfaced, and suddenly, everything connected. 6 months ago, Lindsay had gotten divorced. Right around the time I got engaged, when my life felt like it was finally coming together, hers had completely fallen apart. The reason was her spending habits. She had been buying luxury brands far beyond her husband's salary, piling up debt until he finally gave up on her. Now, a single mother with a small child, she moved back in with our parents as if it were the most natural thing in the world. "I'm too shocked to even think about finding a job," she would say through tears, leaving her son with Mom while she shut herself away in her room all day. And yet, her social media was full of new designer bags, and online shopping boxes arrived at the house almost daily. Anytime someone pointed out the contradiction, she would burst into tears and lock herself in her room again. "Just leave her alone. Poor Lindsay's been through enough," my parents would always say. Watching them, I even considered postponing the wedding. How could Lindsay truly celebrate my marriage in her current state? Maybe she wouldn't even show up, and I couldn't imagine having my wedding without my whole family there. When I talked to Aaron about it, he said gently, "If that's what you want, I'll support you, whenever you're ready." But just when I'd made up my mind to tell Lindsay, she surprised me. She took my hand, smiled brightly, and said, "Sorry for worrying you. I'm fine now. Really, don't worry about me, okay? I'm going to make sure your wedding becomes a day you'll never forget. You've spent years taking care of everyone else, but this time it's your turn to shine. Our family is going to celebrate you bigger than anyone in the world." Those words moved me to tears. I thought, she's finally overcome her pain. She truly wants me to be happy. The sister who'd always only thought of herself. Maybe she'd grown stronger, kinder, after going through the pain of divorce. I was deeply touched by her warmth, and I believed her. That's why I decided to go ahead with the wedding as planned. Never in my wildest dreams did I imagine that her promise of an unforgettable day would come true in such a cruel, nightmarish way. It was all an act of spite, a wounded sister's way of lashing out at me, the one standing at the peak of her happiness. And my parents, blinded by their pity for her, were willing to sacrifice even their eldest daughter's most important day just to comfort the poor one. That trip to Hawaii? It was Lindsay's revenge. Your happiness means nothing compared to my misery. That had always been her way of thinking. She hadn't grown at all. And my parents had chosen to take her side. That was my family's answer to my 28 years of devotion. I had always been the ballast that kept our family steady. Reliable, responsible. The one who never wavered. I told myself that was my role. After graduating from college, I started working at a financial firm on Wall Street. I earned enough to live comfortably. So when my father's small business ran into trouble, I helped him out. When my mother's chronic illness worsened, I handed her my credit card and said, "Don't worry about the medical bills. You deserve the best care." I remembered every birthday, planned every anniversary, and organized family dinners on holidays, the ones everyone else found too bothersome. Mary's so dependable. Mary always has it together. Those words, once full of praise, had quietly turned into chains that bound me. That's why this wedding meant so much. For the first time in my life, I could be the one receiving care, not giving it. Somewhere deep down, I believed this would be the day all my years of devotion were finally rewarded. Why? The word escaped my trembling lips. Aaron came up behind me and wrapped his arms around me. "Mary, this isn't your fault. None of it is your fault." His warmth slowly thawed the ice inside my chest, but the tears wouldn't come. When sorrow reaches its limit, it transforms into a quiet, burning anger. Just then, there was a knock on the suite door. Aaron's parents stepped in. The moment they saw me, they seemed to understand everything without a word. Aaron's mother sat beside me and gently took my hand. "Mary, you're family to us now. No matter what happens, we're on your side." Her words filled me with warmth. Yes, I have a family, a new one. People who truly love me, who cherish me for who I am. I stood up slowly and faced the mirror. My eyes were swollen from crying, but deep within them there was a steady light. "Aaron, let's have the ceremony. I don't want to cancel it." When I turned around, Aaron's eyes widened in surprise as he looked at me. "Sure, the seats for my family will be empty, but that's fine. I want to make my vows with just you and your parents. Here." Even to my own ears, my voice sounded calm, resolute. This wasn't a declaration of defeat. It was my declaration of independence. The wedding was quiet and intimate. It had always been planned as a small, family-only ceremony, which in hindsight was a blessing. We didn't invite many guests. Because of that, my family's sudden absence didn't cause any inconvenience to anyone else. Only 4 people were there: the bride, the groom, and Aaron's parents. But the emptiness of those unoccupied seats, my family's seats, weighed heavily in the room, like a silent void. And yet, strangely, I didn't feel lonely. Aaron's hand was clasped firmly around mine, his parents watching us with warm, loving eyes. It felt as though only the things that truly mattered were present in that space. After the ceremony, we had a small dinner at a fine restaurant in Manhattan. Aaron's parents treated me as if I were their own daughter, showering me with warmth and complimenting the ceremony over and over. That night, back in the hotel room, I opened the camera roll on my phone and selected a few photos from the day. A photo of me in my pure white wedding dress, smiling happily beside Aaron in his tuxedo. Another of the 4 of us, Aaron's parents and us, raising our champagne glasses in a toast. Then I uploaded them to social media. The caption was short, but filled with resolve. Today, I vowed a lifetime of love. With the best family beside me, I begin a new life. A farewell to my old family. A beginning with my new one. Every bit of that quiet determination was contained in those few words. When I pressed post, I felt a strange lightness, as though I had finally shed a heavy suit of armor I'd been carrying for years. It's over. I'm done looking back. That's what I promised myself. until a sudden thought crossed my mind. The credit card I'd given my mother. It was meant only for her medical expenses. Surely not. But just to be safe, I decided to check the statement. When the transaction history appeared on the screen, my breath caught in my throat. Location, Honolulu 5-star resort at Waikiki Beach. Details, Ocean View Suite, 3 nights. Location, Michelin-starred seafood restaurant. Details, dinner course for 3. Line after line, all luxury charges from Hawaii. The total had already exceeded my monthly salary. The money I'd worked so hard to earn had been spent on a lavish vacation by the very people who had betrayed me. I could feel my fingertips turning cold with anger. Immediately, I called the credit card company and froze the account. When the operator confirmed the cancellation, I felt an almost peaceful calm settle over me. 2 days later in the morning, when I woke up, my phone screen was flooded with missed call notifications. 63 in total. Every single one from my family, spanning from last night to this morning. First my mother, then Lindsay, then my father, then my mother again. Each voicemail was laced with panic and irritation. "Mary, enough of this! What on earth happened? You owe us an explanation!" My mother's voice was shrill, on the edge of hysteria. Lindsay's message was even more aggressive. "What the hell are you doing? You ruined our vacation. Do you have any idea how humiliating it was when the card got declined?" It was as if I were the one at fault. All I could do was laugh. And then came my father's message, short but laced with threat. "Call me back, now, or you'll regret it." The moment I heard those words, something inside me snapped. I stood up quietly and went to the closet, pulling out a cardboard box from the back. Inside were mementos of my family. Childhood photos. The first fountain pen my father had ever given me. One by one, I placed them into a trash bag. When I finished, my heart felt still and clear. No more letting their words hurt me. No more trying to meet their expectations. From now on, I would live my life with people who truly loved me. I deleted every missed call and voicemail. Then I blocked all their phone numbers and social media accounts. The next evening, as Aaron and I sat down for dinner, enjoying a quiet, peaceful meal, my phone lit up again. It was a call from my aunt, someone who rarely ever called. A wave of unease washed over me as I answered. "Hello, Mary? Oh, thank God!" Her voice was panicked, rushed, almost incoherent. "It's awful! About half an hour ago, your father called me from Hawaii. It's chaos over there. I could hear your mother crying and Lindsay yelling in the background. Your father was furious, shouting, 'They wouldn't take my card at the restaurant. We've been humiliated. The hotel's about to kick us out.'" It was madness. She barely stopped to breathe before continuing. "He said, 'Mary canceled the card out of nowhere. She's trying to leave us stranded here.' And when they couldn't reach you, they started calling every relative they could, saying Mary's having a breakdown. Please lend us money. What on earth happened? Is it true? Did you really?" I gripped the phone tightly, took a deep breath, and answered in a calm, steady voice. "Aunt, please listen carefully. Yes, I'm the one who froze the card." "What? Why would you do something like that?" "Do you know what day it was, 2 days ago?" I cut in gently before she could continue. "It was my wedding day. The reason they're in Hawaii is because they deliberately chose to abandon my wedding. And that trip, every cent of it was paid for with my card." I heard her gasp on the other end of the line. The silence that followed said everything. "So please don't lend them a single penny. This is the consequence of their own actions. If you help them now, you'll only be dragged into their irresponsibility." I ended the call with a polite, "Thank you for listening," and hung up. What burned inside me afterward wasn't anger anymore. It was something colder, sharper. Determination. They were trying to paint me as a mentally unstable daughter and twist the sympathy of our relatives for money. If that's how they wanted to play it, then I would bring the truth into the light. I unlocked my phone and began typing a new post on social media. To all my friends and relatives who have reached out with concern after noticing that my family wasn't present at my wedding 2 days ago, I'd like to explain. My parents and sister were having a vacation in Hawaii on the day of my wedding ceremony. The photo below was posted by my sister. I added a screenshot clearly showing that cruel caption. Best party ever. So glad she didn't come. As the second photo. They are now in financial distress because I froze the credit card they were using. They've been calling relatives for loans, claiming I'm mentally unstable. The truth is, as stated above. For transparency, please note that this trip was charged to the card I'd given my mother specifically for her medical expenses. I'm sharing this so that your kindness won't be exploited. My hand didn't tremble as I pressed the post button. The next day, during my lunch break, I received another call from my aunt. This time, her voice was quiet, tired, a stark contrast to yesterday. Mary, I've seen your post. Everyone in the family is in an uproar. They're all on your side. They're furious at your father and the others, saying, how could they? But I'm sorry. Before seeing your post, some relatives had already believed your father's story and sent them money, thinking, poor things. No, I replied. There was no emotion in my voice anymore. Please don't apologize, Aunt. Thank you for letting me know. Meanwhile, they had returned to New York, scrambling to borrow money from all over, collecting cash in a pitiful, desperate attempt to survive. I could easily imagine that their hearts were filled not with gratitude or remorse, but with a dark, seething rage aimed at me. That evening, they returned, and I was spending a quiet moment in the living room of our new home with Aaron. We were discussing where to place a new photo frame containing our wedding pictures when suddenly, the apartment intercom blared loudly. On the monitor, I saw my father, mother, and Lindsay glaring into the camera with faces twisted like demons. The storm had finally arrived at my front door. Aaron looked at me, worried, but I shook my head calmly to stop him. It's fine. I'll handle this myself. With resolve, I opened the door. As if waiting for it, the three of them barged into the living room without my permission, their faces contorted with travel fatigue and uncontrollable anger. What have you done? My friends are bombarding me with messages asking, what's going on? Lindsay screamed at the top of her lungs. Because of you! I look like the mean sister! Then my father yelled, do you know how much trouble your post caused? The phones haven't stopped ringing with relatives scolding us. He continued bitterly. Only a handful of relatives even lent us money because of you. Do you know how miserable it made us to return from Hawaii? You disgrace. Disgrace? I asked calmly, my voice icy. Tell me, which one of you has the right to speak of disgrace? After skipping your daughter's wedding and enjoying a Hawaiian vacation paid for with her money? Shouldn't you be the ones learning what shame is? My father faltered for a moment at my resolute words. Then my mother, wearing the expression of a tragic heroine, tearfully pleaded, Mary, don't you understand how much Lindsay suffered? She was betrayed by the one she loved and just went through a divorce. As her older sister, you should have considered her feelings. I could hardly believe what I was hearing. I've thought about her feelings more than anyone, I said, my voice quiet but cutting through my mother's words like a blade. That's exactly why I seriously considered postponing the wedding. Do you remember what you said to me that day, Lindsay? I fixed my gaze on her, sharp and unwavering, every syllable laced with controlled fury. You said, don't worry about me, I'll make sure it's a day you'll never forget. I believed you, Lindsay. I thought those words came from kindness, from strength. But they were nothing but a lie, weren't they? A deliberate, malicious lie meant to lull me into trusting you, so you could push me off the cliff at the cruelest possible moment. Lindsay's face twisted, her confidence faltering for a heartbeat before she snapped back, shouting defiantly, Yeah, that's right! Why should you get to be the only one who's happy? You deserve to know what it feels like. So it was jealousy. Nothing more, nothing less. Your feelings? My tone turned to ice. You mean the feelings of someone whose husband left because of her own spending habits, and who then made me pay for her debts? Lindsay's face went crimson. She fell silent, biting her lip hard. Predictably, my mother jumped in, looking at me as though I'd just committed an unforgivable sin. How could you say something so cruel? Lindsay's still devastated from the divorce. She needed that trip. My father followed, nodding in agreement. We went to Hawaii to cheer her up. The tickets just happened to be for the same date as your wedding. It couldn't be helped. I let out a short, humorless laugh. Really? A broken-hearted woman checking release dates for the latest designer handbags? Don't make me laugh. Whenever things get inconvenient, she plays the poor me card, hides behind your pity, and dodges responsibility. Isn't that right, Lindsay? I took a step closer. But that act is over. It won't work on me anymore. And I'm done putting up with both of you going along with that farce. Then, with absolute calm and a clarity that felt almost sacred, I declared, "From this moment on, I am cutting all ties with you. I'm no longer your daughter, no longer your sister. All financial support ends today. And Mother, I expect you to return the credit card immediately. From now on, you'll live on your own means." What? All three froze, their faces drained of color. My mother collapsed weakly onto the sofa, trembling. "You can't be serious, Mary. What about my treatments?" "That's no longer my concern," I said flatly. "Fortunately, you still have another daughter, one who's quite resourceful. I'm sure Lindsay will cover the costs. Won't you, Lindsay?" I said it with heavy irony, and Lindsay bit her lip in frustration, lowering her gaze. She couldn't even pay her own bills, not after the divorce. "Don't you dare!" my father roared, lunging forward to grab my arm, but his hand was stopped by a strong arm. Aaron, who had somehow appeared at my side, firmly grasped my father's hand and spoke in a low voice. "Please do not lay a hand on my wife any further." The power in his voice made my father flinch. Grinding his teeth, my father withdrew his hand with a bitter scowl. Aaron released him slowly, then moved to stand protectively in front of me. He said in a low and controlled tone, "This is our home. After you leave today, any further contact or unannounced visits will be considered harassment. Our attorney will handle any such incidents from this point forward." "An attorney?" My father's face turned bright red as he opened his mouth to retort, but when he met Aaron's unwavering gaze, he swallowed his words. It seems they finally realized that the word attorney marked a line they could not cross. "Fine, if that's how you want it. But remember this, Mary. You'll regret it. No one who abandons their family ever finds happiness. You'll see." It was meant as a curse, but it couldn't touch me anymore. "I won't regret it," I said firmly, "because I already have a real family. One that loves, respects, and protects me no matter what." I turned to Aaron and squeezed his hand tightly. He met my gaze, his eyes filled with quiet strength, and nodded. The three of them had nothing left to say. The daughter, the sister, the bank they'd depended on, was gone. They were finally confronted with the reality that, relying solely on themselves, they wouldn't be able to even maintain their current lavish lifestyle. They walked out of our home in silence. My mother was sobbing uncontrollably. Lindsay glared at me with pure hatred. And my father, he kept that same bitter scowl on his face until the very end. I later heard, through whispers from distant relatives, that life hadn't been kind to them after that day. The small company my father ran had survived only because of my emergency funds, disguised as loans. Once that support stopped, the business collapsed almost overnight. They lost the house soon after, and now live together in a cramped apartment downtown, clinging to each other to survive. The money they'd borrowed from relatives for their Hawaiian vacation became a heavy chain around their necks. To repay it, my parents burned through what little savings they had left, and their reputation among the family was ruined beyond repair. But the one who changed the most was Lindsay. For years, she had hidden behind her divorce, refusing to work, living off my parents' dwindling resources. Now, with nothing left to lean on, she had no choice but to stand on her own feet. The designer handbags that once filled her closet were long gone. I heard she now works tirelessly as a waitress at a small cafe trying to raise her young son. But all of it was nothing more than the consequence of their own selfish actions. One afternoon, 6 months later, an envelope arrived. There was no sender's name. When I opened it, I saw handwriting I knew well. My mother's. To Mary, I still remember the day you were born. You were so small, so warm, so fragile that I was afraid to even hold you. We loved you, truly. Where did we go wrong? As I read those words, tears fell from my eyes for the first time. They were not tears of forgiveness, nor were they tears of hatred. They were for something that once truly existed. The warm, irreplaceable bond we used to call family. For the foolish people who destroyed it with their own hands, and for the former self who had finally broken free from that chain and found a new life. I closed the letter and placed it deep inside my closet. I will never open it again. My life goes on, with Aaron and his kind, loving parents, and someday with the new family that we are building together. The past cannot be erased completely, but it can be overcome. And I swear to myself with all my heart that I would protect the happiness I have grasped with my own hands, no matter what may come.